So we're going through the list of the top 25 tactics on Football Manager 2024, and this is going to be tactic number 2. Now, the ultimate number 1 tactic, we did look at that in the last video, and it's a 4-2-3, very narrow 4-2-3, and you may have a team that is different from a narrow 4-2-3. So now for those players that are currently on console, I'm going to go through the entire tactic step by step and look at all the player rules and all the player instructions, and as well as the team instructions. So in case you want to recreate a tactic for yourself, you can follow along with us and recreate the tactic on your console. So I'm just going to go ahead and create a new system, just normal as it is, and then go ahead and put all the player roles. Now, starting with the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper here is a super keeper on defend duty. So go ahead and select goalkeeper super on defend, and then add one instruction for him to tackle harder, very similar to what we saw in the original number 1 tactic. So you're just going to follow that and then have the super keeper on defend. Now our right back, instead of having a fullback, we're going to go for a wing back over here, have a wing back playing on support duty. And on support, what you want to ask your wing back to do is to actually cross more often. You also want him to act like a winger, so he's going to cross on the byline. You also want him to stay a bit closer to the central defender, so you're going to ask him to sit narrower, and the last instruction is to tackle harder and be a bit more aggressive. Now for your 2 central defenders, you're going to go ahead and use the ball playing defender on defend duty. Go ahead and set that instruction for your 2 center halves, and then for one, I think the instructions are fairly similar. So you want to go ahead and ask them to dribble more and of course tackle harder. You're going to do that for both ball playing defenders. At left back, we're going to keep the fullback on support duty, but you're going to give him the same instructions that you give the wing back that is playing on the right hand side. So you want to ask him to sit narrower, be a bit more defensive, and of course ask him to cross on the byline. Also ask him to cross a bit more often, and the one instruction is to tackle harder. Those are the only instructions for your fullback, very similar to what the wing back has. Now for the midfielders, the first one is the defensive midfielder. You're going to just drag him into the DM role here, just like we did for the top tactic, and instead of playing on defend DT, you're going to have him play on support. In his instructions, you want to ask him to get further forward and contribute to the attack, and the only other instruction here is to tackle harder. So essentially, we're kind of recreating that roaming playmaker in this sense, but here is a bit more defensive. So you have a defensive midfielder in there. Ahead of the defensive midfielder, you're going to have a central midfielder here playing on the right hand side. He's going to be playing as a central midfielder on attack duty. What you want your central midfielder to do is to go over to his instruction and then move into channels and tackle harder. These are the only 2 instructions for him. The reason why you're doing this is because there's going to be a lot of space ahead of him, so he has to get into the box and contribute to the attack. Go ahead and do the same thing for your central midfielder that is playing on the left hand side. Central midfielder on attack DT, add an instruction for him to move into channels and also tackle harder. The tackle harder instruction does help him contribute defensively, because when he's on attack duty, he may not be so defensive. So having that tackle harder instruction just kind of enables him to try and win the ball back. Now for the left winger, you're going to want to push him up a little bit and then take him here and go ahead and ask the left winger to ask him to take more risks, because you want him to also try and create chances. You also want him to run wide with the ball. Like the fullback behind him, you're going to want him to cross the ball. You're trying to create a lot of width here and try and force the team to go out wide and try to cross the ball from there. So you're going to ask him to cross on the byline. He's already crossing more often, so no need to go there. The only other instruction you want him to do is to get further forward because he's on support duty, and then go ahead and ask him to tackle harder. The support duty kind of helps him defensively. That's what I noticed in Football Manager. If you put him on attack, he's kind of going to neglect his defensive responsibilities. So let's just have that in there. On the right hand side, we're going to just pull this striker over to the right, ask him to play as a winger on support duty as well. Get into his instructions and then ask him to first run wide with the ball. He's also going to cross on the byline like we saw before, and also going to ask him to tackle harder and of course get further forward. That's the instructions for the winger on both sides, just to be sure that both of them have the same instructions. Okay, one instruction is missing for the winger on the right, so I'm going to go over to his instructions and ask him to take a bit more risk. The one role that we're left to fill is the advanced forward on attack DT. He's going to remain as an advanced forward, but the only thing you're going to want to change or ask him to do is to tackle harder, because unlike the pressing forward, the advanced forward doesn't have the tackle harder instruction selected. So just to help him to be a bit more defensive, you have the tackle harder instructions selected for him. Team instructions wise, I like this one because the mentality is going to stay on balance. It's very useful for mid-table teams and underdog teams or teams in the lower leagues. You can go ahead and use this system. Now for the out of possession instructions, we're going to start defensively because I kind of like to do this first. And what you're going to ask your team to do first is to play with a high press. We see that very similar. Go ahead and ask them to play with a much higher defensive line. You're going to go ahead and use the much more often trigger press in this sense. You're also going to ask your team to step up a lot more and also invite their crosses. One more instruction to add in this sense is to ask him to prevent the short goalkeeper distribution. In transition, then you want your team to also counter press. You want them to counter. You want to ask your goalkeeper to distribute the ball quickly and roll it out to anybody that is in the back line. Now for the team instructions, there's something that's really different here that I noticed that I don't normally see in meta tactics. What you want to do first is to use a narrow attacking width first of all. And you're going to use a shorter passing with, of course, higher tempo in this sense, not slightly higher, all the way up to higher tempo. Low crosses is going to be selected, but like I mentioned in the previous video, if in case you have a tall striker, you can go ahead and leave it on mixed crosses. But for now, I'm going to leave it on low crosses because that's the default. You're also going to ask your team to be a bit more disciplined. Now, if you're playing with a lower league team, this is very, very useful. It's something I do like in this, so I kind of just like to have it in there. One more instruction we're going to add in this sense, or let's say two more, is to ask your team to focus the play down the right-hand side and focus the play down the left. Why this works is because you notice that we have wingers and fullbacks, both of them are getting out wide and crossing the ball from the byline. Because we have two central attacking midfielders or central midfielders on attack, getting into the box to the middle, there's a lot of space that can actually come from stretching the pitch and going out wide. So you have a lot of players going there, and of course the team is playing narrow. Having these players just exploit both flanks is quite useful. That is the second best on the list of the top 25 Football Manager 2024 meta tactics.